What's up, Juventini? Welcome back to the AJC, your channel dedicated to Juventus. It's not a victory Sunday show, okay? It's another draw show, and everybody's got their own feelings. We go 0-0, and a lot of talk about Motta's Juve, and fans kind of all over the place as far as how they feel so far this season. But yes, Juventus shows its face again against Milan at the San Siro. And we're going to have some fun tackling all of it. I got Paolo, I got Luis with me. Fellas, how you doing today?
Good. The game yesterday, in the words of Gudovico, it was a punishment to spectators.
Yeah, there you go. I said if it wasn't for the live stream, I definitely would have gained some extra sleep during that game, I think, for sure. Paolo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. There was a performance yesterday, and it was mainly a few dives by Teo, by Murata.
So
that's where
the official was Daniele Kife, and I was calling him Daniele Skeef during the match because he definitely was Skeef. Okay, Skeef. Yeah, everybody in the live chat getting in here. Welcome. Good morning to everybody. Afternoon, evening, depending where you're tuning in from. Drop a like as you come in. We're going to have some fun and go through all of this. First, we will go through some of the news. It's a light day in the news. Okay. Luis, want to take us through some of the headlines? What's going on out there?
Yeah. So the big one today was, obviously, we talked about a little bit yesterday in the AJC chat, is the rumors about Del Piero running for the FIGC president.
Get him in there now. Stop the witch hunts. Let's go. Let's go.
The first time in a while we've had a positive candidate for Juventus. Also, just like for people that are commenting on the post, like, I don't know if you've been or not, if you listen to those interviews and the way he talks about where Italian football could be, it'd be interesting to see him be there. It's, a former player. So that's kind of the big one. Juventus also is sending emissaries to watch Liam Delap from Ipswich Town again today. That's the second time I think this year we've sent people to watch him. But he's, a name to watch. And then just overall, thoughts on the performance yesterday and things we'll get into. There was some interesting posts with statistics and things like that for you guys to read through.
I'm telling you right now, okay? I hope Del Piero wears black and white every day on the job. I hope he's got the flags up in the background, all right? Because I'm sick and tired of seeing all these guys with their little Inter cell phone covers and little flags in the background. Get out of here. Alex, get in there, baby. Let's go. Now, thank you for the news breakdown. And everybody, show some love to Lou. He rocks it on Twitter for all the news. And, this guy puts in a lot of time to translate everything for you guys and whatnot. So, yeah, we always very appreciative of Lou's work. Now, let's get to this game. And this won't take very long at all, okay? It's not going to take very long at all. The lineup, we had little contradiction with Timothy Weah because it was slated he was going to start in the days of build-up to this game. We started to hear he took a knock in training before, like on match day. And then we heard Mirko say he could not get any confirmations of a knock. But at the same time, I don't think the team's going to let that out of the bag on match day to any journalist if that was indeed the case, because our bench was so thin. I was kind of surprised we didn't call any youngsters just for coverage, not necessarily to play them, but Angele didn't get called up. We had Javier Gil-Pouchet that also didn't get called up, so I found that a little bit bizarre. But as far as the lineup, Di Gregorio, Savona, Kalulu, Gatti, Cambiaso, Locatelli, Thuram continue to be that pivot that Motta is going to, like he did 3 games in a row before the international break. You had Chico, McKennie, Yildiz with Cope Miners to play up top. We all on the pregame show said, hey, you know what? That's fine. That should be good. That's interesting. It's a completely different look. Cope Miners should have the technical ability to get rid of some of the shortcomings that a lot of us were feeling was happening at that position. lo and behold, what we got was a whole lot of nothing, I think. And we'll get into that, okay? But that was the lineup. I had no issues with it. Guys, it makes complete sense. No issues, I don't think, with it. Paulo, what were your thoughts on that starting lineup?
I didn't like where Coop was being put. I'll be honest. I think he's so much more effective when he can kind of flow in and around the middle. If he has to cheat left or right, he can. If he can creep up the sides, he can. If he can drop back, he can. I think putting him up high felt really unnatural, even though I think I get what the idea is. I'd much rather see what Yildiz can do in that position, because one thing about putting Yildiz in that position is you force a player, when they know they're replacing Dusan, you kind of force them to stay where they need to be, at least at the top-ish and at least in the middle-ish. And I want to see Yildiz kind of forced to stay in that position, because I think he can be extremely dangerous and hard to handle. Whereas Coop, I think it felt unnatural, and I felt he's much more effective in behind that forward. So I was not crazy about it, and then I got really frustrated with it.
Yeah. Lou, how'd you feel about the starting lineup, seeing it?
I didn't really have much issue with it. I thought what we would see was, I thought we'd see kind of Coop Myers come up to get the ball and McKinney to run off of him.
Yeah.
The way that with Vlahovic, like you think about that Inter goal, the Vlahovic one where he runs in behind. McKinney has that kind of natural striker ability, so I thought maybe we would see more of that. Obviously, I was wrong. The thing about where we talked, some of us in the AJC chat that were in there during the game were talking about it on Twitter, and when not starting, I don't really think was a knock. I felt it was just because we were so limited with outfield players. You really don't have a change to kind of change the game. And so unfortunately, it's a little bit of a gamble. But there is that kind of weird thing where, like, for me, Webb plays a little bit better from the start than he does from the bench. But then you got to go one of Chico or Yield it's not, and you can't really justify that in that game. So
yeah,
I really have an issue with the lineup, to be honest. It just ultimately didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, we are going to go through the match highlights. Like I said, that's going to be very, very brief. I do want to remind everybody, though. Forgot. This bad boy's getting given away today. We're finding a winner today live on the show, all right? So good luck, everybody.
Positives.
Yeah, we got to pick it up, okay? Another draw, whatever, but don't worry about it. We'll pick it up for the team there, all right, on the draw. But let's get through the highlights here. So 7 minute in, and we get a great exchange. Like I said, Yildiz, Cambiaso, working it on that flank. They get in behind Emerson. Cambiaso's flying there. This is a great crossover, and Chico mishits it. Ends up getting blocked by Teo there. He's going to probably want that one back. That's a big chance registered early on, 7 minutes in. We also get another good opportunity, 22nd minute. Thuram driving out of the midfield, finds Yildiz. He takes a rip short side, obviously wide. It's going to take something really special to beat Maignan, especially from distance. We were taking shots from distance. They were pretty soft, though, overall. I think Thuram had a couple rips from distance. Gatti had one from distance. But again, you're trying to finesse this thing, and my God, if you're going to be trying to finesse this thing from there, especially a center back on Maignan, it's going to have to be ridiculous, okay? FC 25 style. Nonetheless, we get to the 45th minute now for a chance. It's Milan on a scramble off a corner. Emerson flies in there with a header. It goes wide. We stop at halftime there. It's really, this first half, I thought was a decent first half for Juve. I was like, okay, this isn't bad. Like, we look more likely to score. We've limited Milan to next to nothing. I just felt, second half, like the direction should be put forth to them of where you're getting your success. And that's on that flank of Emerson. Attack that. Attack that weak spot. Cambiaso and Yildiz, they can cook. We can create. We did create several opportunities from that side. Go to it. Force Milan's hand. And I didn't feel we did that. That was one of my frustrations. We'll get to the second. Guys, there's not much to talk second half. I thought the second half was so flat. 5 minutes in, we do get a good opportunity. Thuram finds Yildiz. He finds McKinney. Cambiaso on his horse. Great run in there. Credit where it's due. Good block by Malik Chia there on Cambiasso as he turns to rip on Mignon there. That goes out for a corner. Guys, set pieces. I don't know what we look like we'll never score another set piece in our life again. If it's not like the deliveries are terrible. When they are good, nobody's anywhere near it. I don't know what's going on. Set pieces, it's like there's nothing going on there. I don't know. 62nd. Yildiz does incredibly well here. Good fight to win the ball over on the flank from Emerson. Comes back, gives it to Thuram again. Very weak shot, curling right into Mignon. And then 94th minute, a little bit of pressure from Milan there. Ends up with a header from Matteo, but Di Gregorio stops it short side of goal. It ends there, 0-0. The first half, my frustrations were almost more with, as Paolo was talking about, Milan diving all over the place and Daniele Kifi with a terrible job of keeping any kind of consistency, because there was this much consistency in his calls, especially in the first half. Ultimately, he didn't dictate anything or, change the outcome, but it was a terrible, terrible performance from them, and it was pathetic to watch. And I would like to see the league do something, because this league will never figure it out. I'm just going to take a minute here to talk about this, because Serie A is trying to chase these other leagues. If you were a neutral, or say you don't follow Serie A and you're like, hey, this weekend, Milan and Juve, I'm going to watch it, and you saw that garbage and the ref not doing anything about it to kind of clean it up, pick it up or whatnot, it was a brutal display. And from the own team's accord, a brutal showcase for Serie A, in my personal opinion. But guys, it ends there, 0-0. I want to know where you're at, what your thoughts were at full time, how you feel about this thing, because fans are kind of all over the place. Let's start with Lou. What do you think overall this game?
Yeah, I mean, this was a snore fest, I think is what I called it, from the main account. If anyone followed the main account, there's a point in the second half where I got bored and just started tweeting at the AJC members, because it was that kind of boring in the second half. But my thing is, we were looking at two wounded animals just kind of kick at each other. I think Juventus, ultimately, they created some chances in the first half. I was a little upset at halftime because I thought Milan, when they started diving, they started to get a little chippy. They kind of ran whatever rhythm Juventus had in the first half out, and then we just never really saw it again. And I think once we got to about the hour mark in that game, Juventus were kind of like, we'll take the point here and we'll move on. But it just, not to blame injuries. I'm not really someone that makes excuses, because we've drawn a lot of games this time around, but I don't really think there's much you can read into in this performance, because they just looked like they missed the reference point. And that, to me, if you want to blame anyone, maybe is the management for not replacing Milik when he had, an existing issue. Because just having someone up there might have, opened this game just a little bit more. I mean, yeah, we had the chances, we did, but it just looked disjointed from start to finish. And part of that's tactically, but I think that reference point was really missed yesterday.
Big time. Paulo, your thoughts at full time?
As a fan, it was really disappointing. I think Milan are disgraceful. I think they were at home. They had overcome all their injuries. They pretty much had a healthy squad. And they were diving. They weren't completing passes. They showed no ambition. They didn't move forward. They were really embarrassing. If I'm a Milan fan, I would be disgusted at that performance. So I think Milan should be ashamed for showing up and playing so poorly without any heart, any purpose, any ambition. Now, Juve, on the other hand, I'll take a point. And I think, reluctantly, I'm going to say that I'm pleased we got a point and we didn't lose any points. We didn't lose going into that road game against a healthy team, down 7 men. Not really being able to produce goals and coming out of there with a point, looking like the better squad, looking like the squad with more intention. I like the possession. I know people will be thinking about possession and its value when you don't do enough with it. I get it. but I don't mind the possession. We look like the team that went in there with purpose, and I'm glad we got a point, but disgraceful show from Milan.
Yeah, and I will touch on that because this is not like a Juve fan biased speaking there too. Costa Curta, who, if people aren't familiar with, longtime Milan defender, very, very strong defender. He came out and spoke to this game, and he said, I believe one team played not to lose, and one team was never even close to winning. And he said Milan is the one that's never close to winning this game, and they look worse in this. He said the exact same words. In terms of anybody that was with me for the watch along, I've been saying the same thing for a while with this Juventus and how I feel. I feel that we are very, very safe. Costa Curta reiterated the exact same thing. He said, I look at this Juventus and it is extremely safe. They do not take chances. They do not take any risks. They play safe and not to lose. And it's hard for me to disagree. Obviously, I've felt that way for weeks. And the more I think about it, the more it actually kind of starts to make sense. I don't like it, but it does kind of make sense. I'll dive into that a little bit more, but we do have to talk about some of the performances in there. We all highlighted that there was no reference point up top. We talked about Colt Miners, what we expected from him, McKennie up top. To be honest, we ended up getting nothing. Colt Miners did all his natural midfield duties and continued to drift way out to the flank. We essentially did nothing in the changeup. That is one of my major frustrations with this game as well. We've gained no answers. We have no new answers. But we didn't even give it a chance the way it was playing out. So whether it's Motta, whether it's whatever the case may be, we learned absolutely nothing from this match, and that's a waste. The fact that we didn't push for it, that pisses me off because I'm okay with the draw overall, grand scheme of things. We'll take the point. You're still striking distance, etc. We've got a very good run of fixtures here that have to end up in wins. You have to go on a run. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later. I'll take the point. But it's how these games play out. And when you have a Milan that bad, where Paolo will go to the extent of saying disgraceful, where some of their fans said the exact same thing, I want Juve to push for the 3 points that are a big 3 points. I'm not happy with status quo, especially in a game where you actually controlled. You leave the first half looking the better of the two sides, looking more likely to score, giving Milan nothing. But the second half, you're flat. You're flat, and it shifted downwards. I thought subs maybe a little too late to really try anything, to change anything. I thought it was very late, but it's very safe. It's very, very safe. Again, I know we're going to get into this, but performance-wise, man of the match. I got to know who you guys had for your man of the match. Everybody in the chat, hit us with your man of the match. We'll talk about some individuals. Paulo, who's your man of the match here?
It was very hard to find one. I think Thuram, though, definitely showed that he played the full 90, I think, right? So he really played box to box, strong, involved, communicating, offensively, defensively, very active. He looked great. I'm really happy for him and the quality that he's growing into.
There you go. It's Thuram for Paulo. We've got the chat coming in here. Thuram straight across. Lewis, your man of the match?
It's Thuram for me too. I think he's just head and shoulders above everyone else. But notable mentions, I will say Savona and Kalulu were very good yesterday.
Yeah.
Savona, especially, he had a mountain of a task there at Leao, and only one time did he really lose him. So it's very impressive from the young kid.
I like this from Pino. Juventini for watching the whole 90 and being here this morning. That's great. Yeah. There you go, man of the match.
Yesterday was the knee guy, and that's because he missed the game.
Yeah. It's Thuram. Come on. I was rocking the guy's kit yesterday. I'm a big fan of his. I'm rooting for him. I got high hopes for him. I think he's getting better and better with each game out of this run where him and Locatelli are really establishing a very solid, formidable partnership. Very, very happy for him. My honorable mention was definitely Savona, and I think Kalulu was a good shout too. And I think it kind of ends there, I think, as far as performance goes, everywhere across the board. A little bit of flashes here and there from Yildiz and Cambiaso. Yeah, Chico got kind of ruled out. Him and Teo kind of ruled each other out. But I will say this about Chico's performance, and it's something I really appreciate that is not common for Flair players. The amount he gets his hands dirty. And the grunt work that he puts in is relentless. It's definitely admirable. It's hard not to like this guy. And it's easy to see why he's become such a fan favorite so quickly. Always appreciate guys like that. That suits the mold of Juve of old. Like even the Flair guys putting in the grunt work, So credit to him on that. Savona was strong and solid and simple, but simple, straightforward game. Chico helped him quite a bit as well, so credit there. In terms of now, the overall, like I was talking about, very, very safe. I'm going to elaborate on safe. Like I said, Costa Curta was talking about the same. There was moments in that game. The one thing I noticed the most that frustrates the hell out of me is how the majority of our players are all playing the same game. And that is ball to feet. There is very few players that are looking to get beyond the defense. When those runs do take place, usually the ball is not being delivered. And there are instances where the players that are on the ball, they actually are looking in that direction. And again, we're not taking those shots. We're not taking those risks. I associate this Juve, Motta's Juve, with being too safe because I feel like the amount he wants to not give the other team an inch is almost hindering us in making the breakthrough for this team being able to go through all the gears. That's how I feel. You're watching Yildiz get the ball top of the edge. Yesterday when Weah came in, top of the edge, right side. 5-6 seconds before I even see Savona in the frame. That's an eternity in a football match. Like, get on your horse, get on your toes. Like, we're stagnant. We're just standing there. It's a little bit of Motta. It's a little bit of the players, but it's very, very safe. Everything is in front of the defense. If you're playing a ball, like I remember a sequence we had, we work the ball, it gets to Locatelli, top of the 18. I'm like, somebody make a run. Like, try to go in behind the defense. Maybe he could pop it up and you could try to head it across goal, create some havoc. It's a tougher ball to defend. We try to go across the face of the 18 and it gets intercepted and it's ran back at us. We end up taking a yellow card. I believe it was Luca in the end that ends up taking the yellow card to break things up. It's just very, very safe. Very, very safe approach. I think he wants to be, so he's so adamant about shutting down the other team from giving them opportunities that it's hindering us in going the next step. What do you guys think about that? Am I wrong? Do you feel the same way? What do you think? Paulo?
I think he's very cautious. I agree. He will sacrifice opportunity and inspiration for staying in a game, not making mistakes, giving his boys a chance to grow into a game. I think it's frustrating. And I think yesterday's lineup by putting Coop in the middle, I don't think showed any proactivity at all. I'm not going to hammer on Motta. I'm not anti-Motta, anything like that. But I will say that I think us not being proactive yesterday in an opportunity where we could have been, I think that's on him. And until it seems that we get scored on or somebody wakes us up from this, do we respond and become more enthusiastic about what we want to do during a game? And I don't want to have to get scored on for the team to wake up and react.
Yeah. And Lou, what do you think? Am I out to lunch here on my thoughts?
No, I mean, I think, in part of doing the news, Alberto, you can test this for having to recap the news. Like when you do Motta's press conferences, that's all he really talks about. It's control, control, control. And with control, you have to almost not, I mean, not be fully safety, but you do have to, you're going to control the match. You have to cover all bases, right? You're going to have to try to, not really concede anything. And yesterday, Milan really never got near us, but the same thing, and we never really got near them, is a common theme. If you look at the number of draws, there's 7 of them, four of them have been like no goal games. So it's like, it's a lot, right? But I do think there's a player side to this that the ball still moves very slow with some of these players. They get the ball at their feet, they don't really know. I'm going to nitpick Locatelli here a little bit because in the first half I saw a lot with the press. We get in the press and he goes backwards instead of just opening his body up and maybe like switching the ball across the field. And I've noticed a lot recently because Thuram does play that ball where he'll switch to the fullback or the winger, right? Locatelli yesterday, like once or twice, he get his ball at the feet, and Savona would have his hands up. He's screaming. He's got acres of space, and there's no ball there, right? And that's what they mean about like taking a risk. That's maybe where you remember when we played against Leipzig, right? And he dropped Locatelli for Fagioli, and he like because Fagioli could maybe do a little bit more of that, can break the press, can kind of switch the field. That's the your little risk taking, right? And that's not to say Locatelli's not been phenomenal. He has been. It's little things like that with some of these players where even Kenan Yildiz, right, where it's like he could take a guy 1v1. He's got to come get the ball. Like, come a little bit more central, pick up the ball more, like whatever it is to get you the ball a bit more. Like it's part tactical, but it's also part down to those guys as well. That was a problem that existed last year as well with some of those players where they're not taking risks on the ball, they're moving a little slowly. It's a lot of Motta, but some of it is to them.
But this is the thing why I believe it, and I said this to everybody that I put my neck on the line for, not for Vlahovic, but for the issue, and why I do believe Motta carries a bit of this responsibility more so than probably given is because I said I don't see personnel changing things. And that's because I've had this feeling about Motta for some time that this guy he's so hell-bent on just bringing down the amount of opportunities for the opposition. Like yesterday, after the first half, I felt like we should have pushed. We could have pushed. We could have went after that. We were the better of the two sides. You saw where the success came. We talked about that on Emerson's flank. So where's the direction in the second half to attack that, to go after that? It's all the same. It's possession. It's safe passes. The movement didn't ramp up from the first half to the second half. I'd say movement was worse and less guys were actually actively moving. It's a bit of everything. But the Leipzig game, this is where I thought, okay, we can make that turning point. This could be the turning point where we shift things offensively. Like now we get in rhythm. These guys bag good goals. Like now it's time to cook. It almost had a different effect. And not that game necessarily, but like we've almost seen, we saw some games where he was going with Danilo. We were leaking all of a sudden. And now you get into this mode where I think, has it gotten more safe? I don't really know, but like look at the numbers. This is why I feel it's the same, but it's just different. You had a team that would shell up and not play with the ball to prevent goals, to prevent conceding. That's what the belief was last season. Now you have a team where the philosophy is control the game, dominate the ball, go from there. But I still don't think we're going to get a push offensively. Through 13 games, last season to this season, 21 goals for this season, 19 goals for last season. 7 goals against this season, 7 goals against last season. 25 points this season, 29 points last season. Big chances created, 2.4 this season, 2.3 last season. Big chances missed, 1.6, 1.7. Shots on target, 4.2, 4.1. Everything is the same. The only thing that's different, you're playing with 20% more of the ball. Possession, it has to mean something. Like, it has to mean something more. For me, you can't walk away getting the same amount of creation as a team that barely played with the ball whatsoever last season. You have to be able to do more with it if that's your philosophy. I don't think this approach, until it takes the next level, and I don't know how you get it to the next level. I don't believe it's just a personnel thing. I think a lot of it comes from Motta too. You got to get after it.
I wasn't disagreeing with that. Like, I agree, like, tactically, obviously there's an issue there. Like, I do think that he gives them a little bit too much freedom in the final third to dictate their own thing, which, again, when you have, we talked about this last year, when you have a bunch of younger players, they kind of need some instruction. They kind of need to be like, hey, you need to go here. You need to come get the ball here. Like, it's okay to give them a little bit more structure. Than, maybe just being like, hey, you get the freedom to do what you want in the final third, be yourself. Well, young players may not know that, right? It is a younger side, and I think Cope Miners has suffered a little bit from that. But I also think at the same time, there are, passages of play and some of those buildups where you look at some of these guys. I think about, in the Champions League against Lille. In the Lille game, right, he'd get that defender 1v1, and Cope Miners would be screaming for it at the top of the box, right? The space is there, right? The players, like, don't take it. My point was just more, like, even the Motta's a big issue with it, but there is a little bit of an element of some of these players just, like, in their decision-making and some of their, I guess, the way they move the ball, and, like, you can see them freeze up just a bit. It becomes almost too slow sometimes. I think that's part on the coach, and I think that's part on, your players. It doesn't matter who you put in there. I think the problem still exists because I think that it's a large issue with them. But that's just my thing. I think that it's part of a young team trying to formulate, and it's incredibly frustrating because, in my opinion, if you flip 2 or 3 of the draws, we'd be a couple points clear at the top. And I think if we were clear at the top, no one would catch us, right?
That's where my frustration lies, is because if you look at these other draws, even if you want to go to yesterday's game, that's a winnable game. It's right in front of you. You're the better of the two sides. But where's the push for that? And that's what's driving me nuts. My comparison to last season is just simply for the fact that I don't think either is right. I don't want to play without the ball. But if I'm going to play with the ball, I want to be able to do something. I've always said, I don't need one set philosophy for a team. I don't care what the philosophy is. I need a team that can go through the gears. I need a team that can shut it down when they have to, but I need a team that can also understand how to break down their opponents, how they're going to create, and do so as a team. I've been saying for a while, the cohesion in the final third, it's not there, and it still feels very individual based what we do in terms of creation. You see flashes of combinations between Cambiaso and when he's on the right with Chico, with Yildiz there, it's got to evolve. Thuram has been putting in good form. He was driving the midfield well. Like, maybe this is growing pains, and maybe eventually we'll be able to hit that next gear. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah,
best case scenario.
But to say that it's injuries, because a lot of just say, it's injuries. That doesn't work for me, because you've had just Vlahovic playing for how long now? Like, just Vlahovic playing? I'm still not going to give Motta a pass on that, because you didn't do anything to work on the alternative in meaningful games and actually find the solution and find what you wanted to go with. I'm ready now to see Yildiz up at the top. And I actually will go as far to say that I think it would help the decision making. Because sometimes, I don't want to go too overboard, sometimes the decision-making is faltering at the wing position in critical moments where maybe something better can come from it. I think he'd have actually less to think about at that top spot. And I think it could work out better because he's got a hell of a shot. He can finish. He can score. I'd give it a shot. I don't think, though, personnel alone takes us that next step.
No, I mean, I agree. I also think, too, like there are a couple things. First off, to your point about the injuries, if you look at some of our draws, like the Napoli game, the Roma game, we were a healthy team. I mean, I think the Napoli game was the healthiest we've been, minus maybe, I think Kotsakawa, he wasn't available. He's the only player not available for that game. But for the most part, that was a full team. We dominated that game 90 minutes and never really got near the front of the net, which is, it's frustrating. I don't disagree with that. I do think there was something. One of the things that was a little disappointing for me yesterday was I thought in the last couple games we had a really nice balance with Weah on the wing, because I think Weah's movement, he just naturally kind of like makes that inverted run from the wing into the box, and he kind of creates chances by adding another body there, right, because of his movement. And yesterday we didn't have that, which again, like could be down to your coach not really having a solution. If we look back, on Max Allegri in the first stint, or Conte when he was here, like these guys, like they've found solutions with, injuries. So it's kind of the makings of a good coach. I understand that.
Yeah, and chat, fire away with Storm the Barn whenever you please. We're going to get Paulo's thoughts on this whole kind of discussion here and what you kind of feel about what myself and Lou are saying in terms of it can't all be personnel.
Yeah, I agree. I put a lot on the coach when I'm passing out responsibility. Sometimes it's blame, sometimes it's credit. When you look at Arsenal, for example, Arteta, right? He complains a lot. He complains all the time. And you see that in the players complaining. Like they're almost like mirrors of his behavior of complaining, arms in the air, running to the ref. Pep is always kind of in people's ears. And then you see the players always gathering around the refs and getting in their ears. So I think the players are, no matter what their experience or their ability, they're always a reflection of their coach. And I think we have a bunch of guys who are probably conservative, safe in their mindset because they're going in to be responsible, right? They're going in to be careful. Savona's taking little steps each game to go a little bit higher up, but not let Leao yesterday get the best of him. Yeah. And I think this conservative nature really shows up when we get into the offensive portion of our game, where it kind of chokes. But McKennie was not looking great yesterday, and he wasn't swapped out earlier. Yildiz was not given the chance in the middle and given Cope a more comfortable place when Coop wasn't really working. So I think he needs to be more ambitious, and he has to trust his players more and give them a little more license to do things quicker, faster, and have more fun. And I think he needs to make changes earlier. He's very conservative, so I put this on him.
Yeah, like I say, it's just in the grand scheme of things, the point is fine. You walk away the San Siro against Inter and Milan, and you get 2 draws. That's not the be all end all. The concern is, we've been saying the same thing about the offense for months now. Like, it shifts. The attitude, the feeling shifts. When I talk about that early on in the season, 4 or 5 games in, okay, great. All we have to do is sort out the attack and we're flying. We're rolling. 2 months later down the line, it's a different tune when you're talking about the same thing and waiting for the same thing. So that's just kind of where I'm at. And me and Skanga got into this because he's right up here, and I'm like, I'm not really up there yet. I'm kind of gone back just to like status quo the middle. I need this team to show me they'll go through the gears, but you got to actively want that and show that. Dusan Vlahovic, I saw a lot of media saying he's the winner here because nothing changed and it was actually for the worse without him. And I don't think that's completely true because we didn't actually play with any lead whatsoever. Cope Miners, I saw him get ravaged by fans. I saw someone go as far to say that Moretti should be back in the squad before Cope Miners. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. Listen, that's the first bad showing he's had for Juve. It was a bad showing for him, though. Positionally,
yeah, but he shouldn't have been in that. He shouldn't have been in that spot. The coach put him in that position to fail.
He didn't even play that position anyways. He was still
Right.
doing the midfield thing, but it was a mess. It was a mess.
I want to say something on the Dewson point. Last year we talked about a lot. There was like numbers where like Dewson, he made up like 30% of our goals last year. Like he had like some like astronomical number for all of our goals last year. And I thought in recent weeks that like over reliance on him to score like was going away, right? We're getting goals from Way, Yildiz bagged a couple, other people were scoring. I would say not necessarily it's a win for him, but there is still like that reliance on Dewson just kind of even to be there. It's still like they almost looked a little lost without him. And I don't know if that's just, because we can't really compare it to anything. Milik's not anywhere near the pitch, so we can't be like, it's just a number 9 thing or it's a Dewson thing. I do think in that sense there is kind of like all right, we don't really have a point of reference, like where are we going? Like everyone just looks like lost, not on the field.
We got to dial it in.
Yeah.
That's the thing is
we need
the breakthrough. We need the breakthrough that brings the balance to this side. I had a problem with last year's team because the needle, I hate extremes. And the needle was definitely to an extreme, to a different extent of this year. But this year, the needle is still to an extreme. You got to find that perfect balance. And I don't think we found it. I see Forza Juve Medetti has more goals than Cope this season. I cannot stress this enough. Juventus next gen and playing with Juventus is not even close to the same thing. I don't even want to bring up Genoa in comparison to playing at Juve. It's just, please, you guys, please. And the whole Moise Kean thing, it's the same thing. It is not the same. Okay? It is not the same. Colt Miners will be absolutely fine. Motta needs to start to bear a little bit more than what he's bearing so far and putting it on these guys and stuff. Like I said, Colt Miners for me hasn't put in a bad performance. Yesterday, he was a one-man friggin' press. And he still pushed Milan back to Maignan by himself. Like, the guy is so smart up here. Your coach has to put it all together. But I feel our coach is very, very safe. Very, very safe. I will say this. This question, I'm nowhere near a point of talking about any type of extreme to this degree about Motta, and no, not even going to get into it. We're so far away from any type of discussion about a change at the head coaching role. It's not even funny. Yeah. I'm going to talk about this.
I have a Storm the Barn question about Coop when you're done, Berto.
Yeah, we're just going to get in. Overall, 25 points, okay? 25 points for Juve. Atalanta's at 28 right now. Inter's at 28. We're 3 points off the top there. Of course, Napoli with a victory could be at 29, which would put us 4 away from the mark. All is not lost, everybody, okay? And like I said, as far as Juve goes, with the schedule, obviously Villa Park Wednesday for Champions League. As far as Serie A goes, Lecce, Bologna, Venezia, Monza, and Fiorentina. That is very favorable for Juve. Okay? And if you're looking at those 5 games, Lecce, Bologna, Venezia, Monza, Fiorentina, you got to have at least 4 victories out of there. You got to pull at least 4 wins out of there. Like, we need to go on a healthy run. Obviously, you have Man City in there on December 11th, and you have a Coppa Italia match against Cagliari on the 17th. But we need to go on a run. He needs to show us he's going on the run. These big games against big teams, all ending in draw so far. That's okay, but you can't be drawing Parma. You can't be drawing Cagliari. You can't, like, you have to push and give that extra and take those victories if you're going to be not pulling any of those big ones. What do you expect in the jam-packed December? Out of those, let's just keep it to the league games. If you had to give me a point total out of those 5 games, how many points do you think we pull?
10.
You think 10?
I think there's one draw in there.
Because one draw would be 13, right?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said there was 4,
5.
right?
5.
Oh, 5. Then
yeah not 4. 5.
Sorry, my bad. Then I'd be 13. Yeah, there's one draw in there.
13 would be good. Lecce's away, but that's got to be a victory. No doubt. At home to Bologna, got to be a win. Venezia at home, come on. Monza away. Monza, Jesus, nightmares of Monza still from a couple of those results with Mad Max. But gotta win. Fiorentina,
that
one will be a game. That one will be a game. The other ones need to all be wins. Fiorentina? Interesting. Paolo, give me a point total.
Wow.
Pino's saying 7. God, I hope not.
That Fiorentina game is a problem. I think the Bologna game is going to be a problem. I think we got a couple more. I think we got a couple more ties coming. Until we start scoring more, we've got ties, and I'll believe it when I see it. So I think we've got probably 3 wins and a couple of ties.
We got to create more.
Because I'm not going to say a loss. I can't get the words out right now.
We got to ramp up the creation. You can't get 20% more of the ball and create just as much as a team that played in their own 18.
I do understand that point. Venezia and Monza are very bad. Like Verona, I know a lot of people were going nuts for Inter beating Verona yesterday, but think about how terrible we have been creating chances, and we put 3 past them. Like Venezia, they gave up 4 to Milan, and Milan's like a mid-table club. They're bad. They are really bad.
Lecce's got to be a win. The Bologna one,
if we were to draw against Lecce in Venezia, I'd consider we should change our coach in January. That's how bad they are. That's how bad they are.
Yeah, I think you're going to get 3 wins out of those 3 games, and there's 9 points. But I think the other 2, there's a potential for draws. I think the Fiorentina game is a very dangerous game. And like I said, I agree with you in spirit, and my heart's there as well. But I need to see something different in offense to believe we will not draw or put ourselves at risk. And I haven't seen it yet. So until I see it.
Vidman saying 10 if we were lucky. 3 wins, 2 draws. Should be 11 points from Mark there. We need to get guys healthy, and guys need to start contributing. I honestly think I don't think we're so hard done by on injuries that we couldn't create more than 7 attempts yesterday against Milan. That's why I believe it's much more. It's deeper. That's what I think anyways. Bilo, Storm the Barn. Did you miss Dusan? Honestly, what changes are even possible at this point? Paulo, did you miss Dusan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he scored some bangers this year. I don't have a Dusan shirt, but he scored some bangers. He's kind of frustrating, but he does have a great deal of ability and skill and presence and confidence this year, and he's got the goals. I think you put him in that Milan box and things will happen. I think it's Motta's role to get him more service. I think we missed him. I do.
Lou, did you miss Vlahovic? I mean, 100% yesterday. You can't look at the team and be like they had no reference point up top. Like even just there was plays where I think the commentator, at least on the American side of things, if you were watching that commentation, Chico like cuts on his left and he looks up and there's no number 9. There's no like player there. So just from that standpoint, we missed him. But to Paulo's point, Dusan's numbers, and we talk about in the news a lot, are where they were at Fiorentina. Matt, his best season at Fiorentina so far. I think a lot of the time we scapegoat. We do this quite often with players. We're doing it with coat miners now. Vlahovic can be frustrated. It doesn't excuse some of the misses, but we scapegoat players for like Thiago Motta's lack of getting him service. And there are games where maybe he gets 1 chance versus games where he gets 5, right? The service has got to be more. It just has to be. It doesn't matter who's up there. It doesn't matter if it's Xerxes. It doesn't matter if it's Dybala. Whoever it is, you got to give these guys some service.
It's in the numbers. You are generating no more than a team that parked it all year. That's you're on the ball almost 20% more. You've got to make it mean something. So for me yesterday, I'm not even going to say it's Duchamp. We just needed a striker. We just needed somebody there in general. McKennie and Coat Miners, they had to come from so far behind because we just essentially played with like 6 midfielders almost. Is like how we played that game. It was crazy. So to my, like, if you're going to make it Vlahovic specifically, yeah, I just think we needed somebody up there. There was absolutely no reference. It was wild to see. And no adjustment ever came. And again, I put that to Motta. I expect better. This is not the first time I've been critical of Motta and halftime adjustments or lack thereof. It's not the first time we've questioned the subs or the changes. Why not get McKennie out of there sooner? Or even, like, it wasn't working. It was disjointed. Whatever minutes Weah could have offered, get him in. You still had Mbangula. Get Yildiz up to the top. Move him up to the top. Actually actively try for the solution. I think he's getting a little bit too easy of a pass. That's just me right now. I think if we're going to see the breakthrough, it has to come from him. Going back to Paulo's point, I always said this with other coaches. I said the teams are the reflections of their managers. Juve is safe. Very safe. I don't know if anything really changes, but if we hit the halfway mark, if we go through December, we're having the same discussion about not being able to push it further, attack those 3 points, I'm going to have a major problem. I will start to have a major problem. One of the points we got to bring up too is these are relatively open matches. Milan, that was there was space there. Okay?
Yeah.
We still got to face the bus with these teams we're talking about now. Lecce, Bologna will clamp down. Monza will definitely clamp. So now all of a sudden you've got this different beast. It's happy-go-lucky for us offensively. It's give nothing to your opponent. Let's see what we can drum up. That's what it feels like. So, hey, hopefully it works. We got to storm the barn here. And actually, Lou, you had one too, which we'll get to right after this one.
Yeah. But I want this one because I was just reading it. Go ahead, read it.
Is anyone else looking at the fact we have conceded the least goals in Serie A while reflecting on Allegri's comments about the best defense wins the Scudetto? It's my only hope. Coming in from Pierre there. So go ahead, Lou.
It's a really good point. And it's in my head because of the news today. Like, I think in the Albanese post that we posted, like, he talked about, hey, like, best defense, we're undefeated in the league, but we sit 3, maybe 4 points off. And the problem is when you have 4 goalless draws, right, those are games that, like, keep you out of winning the title. You can't get away from the goals thing just because your defense is good. You gotta put some of these away. If you think about, like, we have 7 draws this year, so that's 7 points. That's 14 points that is just like they're just not there. If you get one, if Gatti finishes a header against Empoli, or we don't concede 2 goals to Parma, it's there. So you have to, like, yes, it's great. It's amazing that our defense is there, and I think in the long term it'll be very good for us. but you have to put that last piece together. You really do.
Yeah. I mean, fuck. You could maybe not concede the rest of the way and have draws the rest of the way. Is that going to win you the title? It ain't going to do it. It ain't going to do it. And this is the thing. I've always said, draws are fine depending on how the game plays out. But when they're winnable and they're there for the taking for you, I need Juve to push for those 3 points. That's what we need to be doing. Like, that's Juventus. Like, you can't be satisfied. Even in our players. It was like you got Kalulu. He says, yes, the draw, that's a good result. Kefren Turam comes in. They're sharing the interview. He goes, that's not a good result. Immediately, he's like, not a good result. But it is what it is. We move on. Even the players are on different sides of the fence here. You know, it's funny to see. It's just, it's a winnable game. I feel like we should be pissed we didn't push and go for more. I think it was ours for the taking. I will say the same about the Empoli match. We should have pushed more. Napoli definitely should have pushed more. They had like 2 counterattacks the entire game. You've got to push. I just don't know. I don't see that drive. I see it just very, very safe status quo. Is Motta not a big club coach? It feels like he goes into games focusing on not losing rather than winning. Big teams look deadly because they play high risk, high reward football. Thoughts? Who wants to take this one first? I don't mind go first, but I'll leave it up to you, gents.
Paulo, you want to go first? I went first on the last one. Otherwise, I can do it.
No, I'll chime in here. Is Motta not a big club coach? I think we'll see. We the other teams are not drawing all the time. The other teams are collecting their points. If we don't win and get 3 points out of a lot of these games, we haven't. While other teams are getting those 3 points, we'll never catch up. We need to not only win and get the 3, we need them to lose, and they're not losing some of these games. So I think Motta still has a bit to prove to everyone, and I think that's okay. And we will see if he is a big club coach. I think he's got a lot of quality and a lot of the tools to be one, but right now he needs to show a bit more when he's ready.
Yeah, you got Peter coming in here. I think the team is doing great. I watch the possession, the ability to come out of tight spots with ease all this time. We're missing attack. Yes, it's not dire. It's not a dire situation. But in terms of this storm the barn, Motta is a very, very good coach. Okay? I just think he also needs to still evolve his game. And I don't think he's done. I think if he goes the rest of the way, I don't think he's going to achieve where kind of the greats are. There's still one element that he hasn't found in the balance. And it was the same last year. I said, whoever thinks he's coming in here and he's this attack-oriented coach, he is not an attack-oriented coach.
All summer.
We said it also. I said, he's not this attack-minded coach that you're expecting to see. Like, that's not him. He's got to find that balance, though, because it can't be so one-sided. What I want to say about this question, the high-risk, high-reward football, what I don't want from a coach is a guy that will only play one setup and die in that one setup. De Zerbi is classic for that. He'll show you 3-1, 4-1 victories. He'll also get blown up and allow 60-something goals over the course of a season, which will get you this many trophies. And he'll just play that way and never adapt, never change. I've always said the best guys out there have their teams able to go through the gears, able to understand situations and moments. You guys remember in the first tenure of Max, his best attribute was understanding how to get his team to pick up on what needed to change. Sometimes it was through a substitute, but he was money for that. Motta has to develop that. He has to understand how to get his team on the pitch to be better situationally, to be able to adapt, to be able to understand, like a game like yesterday, this is where we attack, boys. This is where we go. This is where we attack. But when I see the team come in at halftime, and obviously the direction didn't even come from him, that's how I know he still has to evolve. So he's still got growing to do. But he is a good coach. Lou.
I think it's less about like the big club, small club thing. I think it's down to ethos. And this is possession-based coaches often do have these problems, right? Where it's too much focusing on keeping the ball and, you know, controlling the game and not taking those risks in the final third. And I think that is part of a young coach and a young team kind of finding their ground a little bit. Now, as much as we've talked about, you know, some of the bad things, it is important to note, like, hey, they have a really good defense. They have remained undefeated. Yes, the points are a big blow, not excusing that. But if you're talking about just assessing someone for some things, you do have some wins, you have some losses. He just needs to put that together. And if he does put that together, if we do find ways to put more risks in the final third, this team, I think, has very high potential. It's right. It's almost like it's here, right, Berto? Like you said, like it's not here, but it's here. But if they find that little problem in attack, it could go here very quickly. Like it is like you see the long potential of it. It's just there. So I think in terms of like, can he manage a big club or not? I think that he can. It's can he get out of his own way, right, to do so?
Yeah.
I think he's going to just develop his ethos a little bit. And that may, unfortunately, take a year where you walk away undefeated and you finish third place. It may be because you draw a ton of games. It may be something like that, right?
And to dive into the crazy mind that is Berto, I felt like we were on the verge of that for so long, and that's why now I'm like, okay.
I get it.
Because I'm like, we're right there. We just got to figure this out, and we're off to the races.
Yeah,
but it's like,
I get it.
Fuck, I can only say that for so long before it's like, guys, deliver. I need to see it. Like Paulo said, I need to see it. Okay, Lou, you had a store in the bar. Fire away.
Yeah, so this is something that's been racking around my head for the international break because I was watching the Netherlands. Would you guys be open to seeing coat miners play in the double pivot? Like, especially against maybe the smaller teams, like moving them out of the 10. I know that means you got to get rid of one of Locatelli and Thuram, which is, you know, unfortunate. But I just feel like if you could get like Weah on the pitch more, or if you could get McKennie on the pitch in the 10 a little bit more, you just sacrifice an extra body in the box, someone that may be able to give you something that maybe he doesn't, just to like create a little bit more in the final third. That was kind of my store in the barn question. And maybe if he's further away, we could see some of those long range efforts that he's been notorious for over the years that we don't really see in the 10 position. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm going to let Paulo take the reins here first on this one before I chime in.
Lou, is your question, should we bring Coop back so that we can get more interesting productivity and opportunity from him, or move him back to get him out of the way of what might be more productive play from someone else in that spot?
It's both.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one. I've got a problem. And my problem is that I have this dream. And in this dream, I have Locatelli spraying these balls as a defensive holding midfielder to all kinds of places and creating magic. And I have Fagioli just above him as a pivot going higher and challenging guys and sending those long balls, but on the ground through the middle. And these two different attacks are happening. And I see in that dream of mine that maybe Coop is remaining higher. So I would like to try anything that gives us something new and creates some more exciting play and maybe some more offense, or gets Coop to kind of blossom a little more. I don't know. I didn't answer your question, did I? Maybe no. Maybe no, not really.
I think
Sorry.
that's a no, I think.
I think it's a no, not really. Thank you.
Okay. Again, it's going to be like a broken record. I said this a while ago. I think I'm definitely open to Cope Miners dropping back. He could play anywhere in the midfield for me. He could play absolutely anywhere in the midfield and be effective. He's that smart with the game. But for me, it would be to get a non-midfielder in the 10 role, and it would be Yildiz. So, I would do that to get Yildiz there, for sure. And I think that's one thing we should look at. But Motta will not. I don't believe he will, for the same reasons I've been saying. I think he's very safe in approach, and he wants it to be robust in there. And I don't think he'll utilize a guy like that. Even at Bologna, his 10 was a midfielder. It always was. And when Ferguson went down, it was another midfielder. I don't think he's going to have to try it and just see that I don't think he's going to lose as much as he believes he will. I don't understand the harm in trying it either, especially in games, because not all games are the same. Different opponents approach things differently. You might need to be robust in their certain games. But if a team's parking it, get fucking Yildiz in that 10 centrally, where he's got way more space to navigate and be able to go left or right and play close to Vlahovic. I don't know if he'll do it.
Bert, let me ask you this. How long do you think, and Lou, I'm curious to what you think, how long do you think Dušan's out? I mean, realistically, because when I saw him walking off that Serbia field and he went to do this, and I thought he was going to do his hand over his eyes and say, holy shit, I'm out for a long time. And he ended up going like this through the hair. Now, when he went to the medical center and he arrived, he was walking like this. And you could tell he was lifting his right leg, trying to look like he's walking normal, but it was like a brick. The thing was a concrete block on that right side. So I think if he's got a major hammy issue and they're just being quiet about it, which might be true, I don't know, he's realistically out for a couple of weeks. And with a big hammy like that, you want to get people in slowly because all they have to do is take off on it and it's gone again. So how long do we think Dušan's out for? And he's going to have a lot of time, Motta, to get someone else in that spot if and when it happens.
We've got a guy out with dead leg for like 2 months. At this point, I thought if Dušan Vlahovic got a nosebleed, he'd be out for a month with J Medical, okay? I have zero faith in these guys. I don't know how long the reports are saying after Villa, but to be fair, we heard Nico Gonzalez was a minor injury. We don't even know if he's alive anymore. The thing is like there is zero transparency with these injuries. So I would definitely not be surprised if it's longer than we expect. And I'm going to go back to what I said immediately after yesterday's game. I'm ready for Yildiz to be somewhere central. And if Vlahovic misses another couple games or whatnot, I want Yildiz to be the one leading the line. And I would move Weah to the left wing. I'd have Chico on the right.
Yeah, I'd just say
I'd love to see that.
I think he'll be back for the midweek match against Bologna. I think he misses Villa. He'll probably miss the next game.
And then it'll be Lecce and then back for Bologna, you think? So a couple games out?
Maybe he sneaks on the bench against Lecce, but I don't think he makes it. And then there goes our point totals. That's so it gets a little dicey.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, transparency around the injuries.
Yeah, the journalists don't help. The journalists are over there being like, "Oh, Nico Gonzalez is back next week," and then he's just like, and then no one. They wait 3 weeks and they're like, "Oh yeah, he picked up another knock 3 weeks ago," and you're like, what?" Like,
but even from a club perspective, help these guys out. Throw them a bone. Luis is getting ripped to shreds. You know,
Oh
Guys,
my God.
guys become a model.
Disaster.
He's become a NASA model. And this perfectly segues into the next Storm the Barn. But, or excuse me, where is it? Right here from Mark. We're near the midway point. What grades would you give our signings at this point, given the cost of each? Colt Miners, he gives a C+. What's your grading for Colt Miners so far? Let's machine gun these things. Lou?
I give him a B-.
B-? Paulo?
B.
Yeah, I'm at a B. I see way more good than negative there. I think he's unfortunate not to be on a handful of goals. The floodgates will open. Douglas, an F. I'm going to give it an NA. Not applicable. Like, he just... what are we talking about here? You know, his model score would be like an A+. Like, you know, settling the NASA stuff and the All Blacks collab. Him and Nico, we know they're alive from the modeling. But I'm going to give it an NA. Louise.
I'll give him an F. We'll give him a letter grade just because his girlfriend is, you know, on Instagram promoting us.
Paulo.
What do you give somebody who never shows up at class? Like, they skip class to go drinking and smoking and they're 13. What do you give that kid? Is that like a Z? Is there even a grade for that?
Yeah.
So
he gets kicked out of school.
So Douglas is expelled.
Yes.
Thuram. What are we grading Thuram, Lou?
I agree with Thuram at a B. But on the rise towards an A.
There you go. Paulo.
A B+. He's getting better.
Better and better. I'm around a B. I'm around a B, B+. I could see it. I believe at the end of the season it'll be an A+. Kalulu. A-. I'm giving him an A. Straight up A. Lou.
Same here.
Yeah. Paulo.
A.
Yeah. A. Nico. Who? A D from Mark there for Nico. Lou.
Nico he's getting a D- for me. Yeah, I was gonna give him an F, but he did score 1 goal when he was playing in the 3 games he played in, so we'll give him a D-.
Okay. Paulo, Nico.
I'll give him a D. He was there for PSV. He pulled up in the Leipzig game. I'm gonna hope he comes back. He gets a D. There's something going on that is okay with him. Some okay things.
I'm gonna give him an F. Somebody's got to get an F. I gave Douglas an NA, but I'm gonna be honest. I said it even while he was playing. I need to see more out of him on the pitch. The only good showing I saw out of him was the wide open game where, you know, my daughter could have run roughshod on that squad. So Nico, I'm gonna give him an F. And the fact that it's a minor injury and it's been 2 months, it's wild to me. Chico, an A. Oh, fuck. A for sure.
He's an A+ for me. I love everything about Chico. I just do. I like his game, I like his personality, everything about him.
He's just unreal. He's unreal. He has his moments where he tries to do too much. I also believe that comes from the game that we play and how reliant we are on those guys, Yildiz and Chico on the outsides. But he's something else. And the amount that he gets his hands dirty, yeah, it's an A. Paulo.
Yeah, he's an A.
Yeah. Fun little question there.
Cheaper,
I like that one.
A little cheaper.
He left one out, though. What does everyone grade Di Gregorio?
Oh, man. Well, yesterday he could have played that game in a lawn chair. 6 total attempts. D Gray hasn't had to show his chops often, but he has shown him when called upon. I like Di Gregorio. I really like him a lot. I don't know if you guys caught there's a couple clips of him in the tunnel talking to the team and stuff like that. This is a newcomer. But the words he said, like, he definitely reps Juve like of old, just in the way he speaks pre-match to his teammates and stuff like that. And the fact that they're all just standing around listening and stuff, and this is a newcomer, and even Luca's there, and like they're allowing this guy to do it. I love Di Gregorio. I was always on the Di Gregorio train. I don't give a shit about the Inter Academy, okay? And the fact that he was saucing up freaking Handanovic to an Inter interview or whatever. I don't care. This guy at that deal was a steal. That was an absolute steal of a deal. The fact that we wanted Carnesecchi and the price tag, after dealing with Cope Miners, I don't ever want to deal with Atalanta again. Okay? Yeah. I don't care who the hell it is. Never again. Never again. Okay? But Di Gregorio's a beast. And he's going to get like a B+ from me.
Yeah, I have him at a B+ too. Only because of that red card against Leipzig, which was unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I give him a B, but I want to see him use his feet a bit more and a bit better. I want to see a little more with his feet, but I'm happy.
The distribution wasn't necessarily there yesterday. It definitely wasn't there from him, but yeah.
But when you saw Perrin at the back, when Perrin was back there, he was using his feet a lot more, coming up confidently, kind of dictating, looking around. So I'd like to see a little more command with his feet from Di Gregorio.
He's got a sick Marvel sleeve, though, for a tattoo. I should pull him up to an A- for me. I'm a big fan of that sleeve. I'm going to go A-. Okay, that's worth something.
Did anyone notice, like, whenever the camera panned to the bench, he was, like, Motta's assistant. It would be, like, Motta and then Perrin. Like, it was, like, he just, like, is in his ear the whole game. Like, it was.
I think he told him to go back to his spot at one point.
You don't really see that often from players. Like, I remember, I think in Allegri's first year back, you'd see that a lot where, like, Chiellini or Bonucci would be, like, standing next to him the whole game. But that's the first time I really see Perrin just, like, like, almost no matter where Motta was, Perrin was, like, right there.
Yeah. Pino, this is a good point. I would deal with Atalanta on their medical staff. If Scalvini is back, 5 months, torn ACL, back in the lineup, ready to go for Parma. Like yesterday. Like, yeah, they're on the juice. Okay, I know it. I've been saying it for years. They're on the juice. Now, Cabal. What do you rate Cabal? So we got a B, a C+. What do you give Cabal? Obviously, unfortunate season-ending injury, but before that, if you had to grade him,
he was at a B- for me. Cabal showed a lot of really good things. I do think in some of the bigger matches, he has to, like, when the level went up, the Inter game, a couple of the Champions League games, he struggled a bit. But he's only 21, so, like, I give him a B- because I saw a lot of really good things for him. It's a shame that he got hurt, so we can't really, like, see that progression.
Yeah. Paulo, what do you give Cabal?
I give him a B+ because his price was really reasonable. He's young. He's left-footed, left back, center left. He gets a B+. What a great asset. Real shame.
I'm like at a B, between a B- and a C+ kind of for Cabal. I really like him. I think he's shown some struggles, but he's shown a lot of good too. I really liked him though, but I think it's kind of around there based on the appearances because it has been a mixed bag, but I think he was picking up steam, unfortunately, right before the injury. So I think at the start, it would have probably been around a C+, but yeah, towards the end, before he got that unfortunate injury, he was on a good run. So maybe B-. B-. What about Savona? You got to rate Savona, everybody. Newcomer.
I got Savona at B+. And I think that he's obviously had some growing pains. There are some games where you're like, defensively, he looks a little weak. But there are some ones that yesterday with Leao, Napoli against Kvara, he was really good. And then what he can do going forward, it is definitely something I think, Paulo, you mentioned it, like him getting a little bit more forward in some of those matches. Some of the balls that he plays, some of the runs that he makes, there's a really talented player there. So I think there's a high ceiling, and I get him a B+. I think that the only good thing about Cabal getting hurt is that he'll play a lot more and we'll be able to develop him a lot more this year.
Yeah. Paulo Savona score.
A. That guy's going to be a right back for the future. I think he's taken that spot now. Someone has to win it back off him.
There you go. I got him at a B+. He's definitely up there. Some struggles, but had a little bit of a rough go for a couple matches consecutively. But since he's returned to the lineup, it's been a consecutive matches where it's been great. So yeah, credit to him. And again, still so young. Got his Azzurri call up. Sky's the limit there. Hopefully it pans out there. But very, very solid start. I like it. Mark continues. Who is one player that you would absolutely hate to see at Juventus? Mine would be that Mongol, Jordan Pickford. That face. You just want to punch. All right. So Pickford for Mark. Lou, give me one guy you would absolutely hate to see at Juventus.
We all know there's a former player I'd hate to see return, but we'll leave him out. It's if you follow me on Twitter, you know on the list of agendas, Mauro Icardi has been a long agenda. That's a guy that I want nowhere near my club. He's a walking time bomb. He's the worst, and the last thing we need is like him to like marry Vlahovic's girlfriend and like ruin his career. So let's keep him away from the club.
There you go. Paulo, give me one guy you'd hate to see Juve side.
Jadon Sancho. As a guy who also follows Man U, I can't stand that guy. As a player, nothing personal. I would not want him in a Juve stripe. It would just insult me.
You almost had that this summer.
That would have been something. Knowing that now. Let me think. God, there's quite a few players I don't like. Definitely when this rumor came up, like, I can't stand this guy. Okay. But it's Harry Maguire. Like, I feel like keep this guy. There's an agenda I've had for a long time since he signed that big money. It is this guy.
That was assault, that rumor.
Oh my God. I felt like that I was being targeted by you, Lou, by posting that rumor and everything. I was like, Lou's messing with me. Like, he is definitely.
It wasn't
he's
even
bored today. He's like, let me get this guy fired up. That's definitely. And I will add this guy. It's one guy I've never. Suarez, no chance. Great, like, I get it. Had a great run, was incredible. I can't stand the guy. Can't stand him at all. Cassano? Yeah, you can add him to the list. I
always like Suarez, but I like shithousery players. Like guys like that just like it was one of the things I always liked about Chiellini is he's like in your ear a little bit.
We had a guy that we signed that I hated. It was Paredes.
Oh yeah.
I can't stand that guy, man. It killed me to have to like try to support this guy for this. Like, I can't stand that guy. Can't stand him. Hey, on the ratings, we forgot Motta. We got a D out there for Motta. A D. Whew. We got a B- for Motta. What do you grade Motta so far, Lou?
He's on a B, but is he on the higher end or the? I'll give him a B even. You can't ignore the goals conceded, the undefeated. I mean, obviously, it's a younger team. It's definitely a project that like you could see where it could go. The question is, can it actually go that way? Can you put that last detail together? Or if you don't, then maybe it changes your scale. So I got him right at a B. Maybe B-.
Paulo, what do you grade Motta?
I want to say something, but it's not going to be fair. I'm always tougher on the coaches. I'm going to say a C+, because only because I'm a teacher who loves him and thinks he's underachieved. That's all.
I'm going to give him a B. It's definitely not dire. It's not bad by any means. No. We have integrated quicker than many teams with new coaches a lot of his game and philosophy and everything. Like I said, there's like one final missing piece. But I feel like my 3-year-old grabbed that piece of the puzzle and hid it somewhere in the house and we just can't friggin' find it, okay? That's how frustrating it is. Hopefully he finds it sooner than later. But so far, yeah, I'd have to say it's definitely more positive for sure. So B, I'll go with Motta. All right. Let's see. Forza Juve, exactly what Pino he's just got next signing for Atalanta should be the medical team. Thoughts? I'm at the point where J Medical can literally burn to the ground and we should just outsource anything medical. I'll be quite honest, guys. I'm so sick and tired of this. I say it every season. Like Lou, you and I were talking, 2-3 days ago? I said, can we just have one season where we can actually see what our team can do without like major injury delays and stoppages? Like just 1 year. I just want to see 1 year. It's insane. And the fact that I literally feel like these guys can't deal with a nosebleed is crazy. You've got a guy with muscle fatigue for 2 months. What? Something else is going on with Luis. That has to be the story. Because if not, please outsource the medical and just turn that thing into an extension of the store at the stadium, okay? And just end it. Because this is crazy. I have zero faith in J Medical. Okay? Zero faith. Does Motta lack adaptability or lack the correct players? I finally have lost positivity because I see no adaptation or progression. Do not lose positivity, brother. Do not. It's not to that degree. Okay?
Yeah, I don't understand the positivity part of that.
Do not lose positivity. Don't lose positivity. We could be frustrated. I think the situation around the attack definitely warrants frustration. I don't think it warrants a downward spiral. Okay? Does he lack adaptation? I guess with everything I've said today,
yeah,
I would be inclined to say he kind of does.
Yeah. It's adaptation. I mean, I don't know. I do think there's some things the players could do a little differently, but even if you change them, I think overall the problem still is there.
Yeah, it's a tough. The players have to grow, adapt to it. They have to become more comfortable in this, but he also has to find a way to bring that comfort in them and get them to show their qualities, right? And he has to put it all together with all the guys he has. The injury thing yesterday, it didn't really play a part. I mean, you had the guys that I think could have got the job done and gotten the 3 points there. I just think the setup was not there. So I would be inclined to say he does lack a bit in adaptation. Paulo.
Coaches in general are egos. They're proud. And they kind of need to be to do the job. It's got to be such a hard job. So I think stubbornness is inherent in a coach. And I think depending on how you react to it is often a byproduct of how the results are coming in or not. So that said, I think he is a bit stubborn. I think he's adapting very slowly, but I think he can. It's still early in the project. It's his first year. He hasn't lost a game. He's got his boys in every contest, down 7 players. He needs to make certain decisions at certain times, and I don't think that's come up wrong often. Yesterday was an example when it did. So he's got to be, as long as he recognizes and adjusts even slowly or adjusts with some patience or safety, I think he does need to adapt. I think he does need to do a little more.
Yeah. It's just about putting the puzzle piece together. I will say this about Motta. Something I liked about him a lot in terms of when he was rumored to be coming to Juve that I always spoke about. Which is why I was really shocked at the Stuttgart match. His preparation, I feel like that's where he makes up probably for that lack of adaptation, and maybe that's why there is a lack of adaptation, maybe a little bit of stubbornness, maybe so much belief in his game plan towards that opponent that he doesn't budge. That could be a positive, because last season he actually did shift and rotate through 3 setups. With Juve, we've seen 2, but majority it's been 1, the 4-2-3-1. I think it's more the preparation for him. And I think that he just, from that point on, is always just a personnel change and no real in-game changes that he might deem too drastic as far as formation, setup, etc. that would tend to insinuate it is a lack of adapting. But for me, the fear is going back to what I said about certain coaches that I don't ever want to see around Juve is these types of coaches that don't change. They have their philosophy, they stick to it, and they'll die by it. So I'm kind of left right in the middle with Motta. Is there a lack of adapting? Is there just very high belief in how he set things up pre-game? That's where I'm kind of at. I don't really know. It could be a bit of both. I don't know, but I still think he's got a little bit more growth. He's a young coach too. Like, he's still very young. He is going to change. He's continuously learning still. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I don't know. For me, there is a lack of adapting, but does he just have that ego that you spoke to, Paulo?
The ego thing is interesting too, because I think your ego is your benefit, right? But it also is kind of a crutch.
It could be your bane.
Some of those possession-based, and this is a thing with Motta, like, he is a possession-based coach. Yeah, he is a little bit pragmatic, but he is a possession-based coach. Sometimes it's very hard to get those guys to adapt. We'll see about Motta because he is, young. We're also looking at a young team of players as well. I think some of the performances, I think Yildiz has been playing a little bit better because they're able to rotate him in and out. I think we were just talking about Savona, kind of same thing. He took some time away, came back, got some fresh legs. It's a young project. So, like, we have to put that into the factor too, where it's like, Motta's trying to find his ground. They're trying to find their ground. But I do think, like, in a positive sense, like, I do feel like the club, like, they have a way of thinking. You can see some of these players, like, they buy into a certain mentality. I think that they understand how to play, the way he wants to. It just is the way that he wants us to play going to get us to the finish line or not. We'll see. But I mean that as a positive note, is that if you have, like, we have 70%, we're 75% of the way there. It's just, can we get that last 20 to...
Yeah. Calogero is saying that I've contradicted myself. I'm not really sure how. I'm saying I don't really know what the issue. There's something lacking. I've been saying there's something lacking the entire way. I don't know what it is. Is it lack of adaptability? Is it just high belief in what he's doing, what he's setting up? I could tell you yesterday, I think the setup was piss poor because we had no focal point up top. So he's definitely making mistakes, and there are signs of lack of adapting. But does he feel he doesn't need to adapt? Does he have this high belief in the setup? I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm not there behind the scenes. And to be honest, usually the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of natural to get into that,
Yeah.
Now, do you think we made a mistake by not signing Marcus Thuram when we had the chance? For those of you that have been following for a long time, you know what I was saying about Marcus Thuram. And he was on a free. And I said, go and get me Marcus Thuram. I've been a fan. A mistake? Maybe. Did he not want to join Juve? I don't know. I don't know the details behind there. Did we take an honest stab? I don't know. But I did want us to sign Marcus Thuram. For sure. Mistake, though? Can we call it a mistake without knowing the details? It's kind of like, Lou, we always bring up Barella.
Yeah.
He was like 24 million, 25 million. We're like, dude, can Juve please take a stab at this guy? But it was always rumored he just wanted Inter. That's it. So did Juve make a mistake? How can you say that, right? But for me, I always said, I was like, no, up the ante, give them more than what they're going to do. Like, fight for it, right?
Backstory, Paulo. There was a whole year Roberto and I screamed for this guy when he was at Cagliari. We like, you see the midfield aging out. He was the perfect replacement for the next 4 to 5 years. We wanted him so bad, and that year, the first year under Conte, was so painful to watch. Like, it just was.
I was like, go. We're like, dude, he's in our backyard. Italian midfielder, 23, he's balling out. Go get him. And when it was
that
like,
was the time too when that was the profile of player we could have easily got.
Oh, I
but
love
again,
Barella. I think he's fantastic. I love that guy.
oh man, but at the same time, did he only want Inter?
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
call it a mistake? We don't know the details with Marcus Thuram either.
Right.
RB Comps, if in January you were offered a Gyökeres Vlahovic swap, would you take it? Yes or no? Paulo. Gyökeres Vlahovic swap right now in front of you. Are you signing it? Are you shredding it?
What's the money? I need to know the money. I need to know if the money is the same with either one, honestly. Because Vlahovic is like, what, 425,000 a week?
Yeah, it's
If
12 million a
is
year.
like, if Gyökeres is like 275,000 a week, then the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because I can get more with the rest of that money and get out of a big hard contract. That
My
I can't unload.
answer is literally the same. If the financials benefit Juve as far as the players go, I'm good with it. If the financials benefit us, then yes. Yes, it's the financials. I think that's the biggest killer for Vlahovic, if I'm being completely honest. Always has been, always will be. You know, you don't get that scapegoat status necessarily for nothing. And if you're on a higher wage, it just makes the magnifying glass bigger, right? Makes the zoom times 20 instead of times 5.
You know what I always say? At the end of the day, it's not our money. It's Elkin's money. So if he wants to waste it, whatever. I know we can't say that as people that, analyze Juve, but I do like to remind people that when when people are screaming in the mentions, they're like, how can we afford this? And I'm like, it's not your money, but to answer that question, it's a no for me. This is just more of a me thing. I don't like making big moves in January. I think that you risk losing balance. Even if the player is better, you risk an adjustment period that maybe in a tight race we don't need. So, no.
And I don't know, honestly, if Gyökeres is what he currently is elsewhere in another league. So we don't really, we know of him and how exciting is right now, but we don't know if that changes. And I don't have a storm the barn, but I am thinking about something that bringing this up makes me think about, which is January and the money. And it's not our money, but it's somebody's money that decides whether we get help where we need it and when.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Also, do you get to note this about the January market? Because I know we see it all the time with the Vlahovic signing. That was a big one. We may or may not have been playing with Monopoly money. I mean, who really knows? But January is not like a major bomb market, right? We may be able to get it. That doesn't mean we can't get a good signing. But
it's
to
difficult.
throw everything in January to be like, we're going to find things that fix the team.
That's why I just don't really understand the reluctance to just get one free agent in for coverage. I don't get it. I don't understand it. You're not in a financial position. And when rumors creep up about you selling players that are currently on, so you're just going to take a team that's thin and make it thinner just to bring in another. But what are you gaining? I'm not really understanding it, but Giuntoli, hopefully you got a plan. I do think it's shit luck that the only two bugaboos he left going into the season both bit him in the ass. No backup striker other than Milik, and no coverage, and a weird loan deal for Rugani that nobody understood, and leaving yourself thin. So they made a couple calls that were messed up. We ended up getting stinging. It's weird. That's kind of shit luck too, but
I've pinned the Rugani thing on Motta. I think that's he looked his characteristics, his ability to play with the ball at his feet, and he was like, I don't want this guy, and I think it was a mistake.
Yeah.
I blame that. I do like the kid from Benfica we're linked with.
Oh,
I think
Antonio Silva. I'm
in
on that. Enites? Yeah. Daniele Kife, the official, and Milan's holes diving and swim. Boom. Right there. And if teams are reflections of their coaches, Fonseca could be an Olympic swimmer. Okay? Now, starting lineup.
Day of the day.
And remember, everybody, this is ready to be given away very quick. Last storm the barn, and then we're giving this bad boy away, okay? So, starting lineup versus Villa. Lou, what's your starting lineup?
The back four stays the same. The Locatelli-Thuram pairing. And then I think we got to go Yildiz, Coop, Consecao, and Weah. Got to play Weah at the 9. Or if he's not the 9, then Yildiz got to play the 9. One of the two's got to play the 9. But that front four has to be in some order.
Yeah. Paulo, your starting lineup.
My lineup's the same as Lou's, and I want to see Motta have a trick up his sleeve, and maybe that is Weah Yildiz switching at some point and doing a little bit of pass off back and forth to confuse an Aston Villa team that is going to play open and they're going to be chasing the ball a lot. So,
yeah,
I like that lineup.
Very like Milan, very winnable game. Their form in the league has not been great. It popped up a really good result against Bayern. Like they'll be tough to play against, but there's a Juventus have a good chance of winning that game.
I'd like to see us pretty much the same lineup. I don't care where Yildiz and Weah go up top, because what I'd like to see is whoever's on the left slide in and Cambiaso push forward. So we almost create a 2-man front on the ball. I don't expect that though. So if it's going to be straightforward the way we have been playing, I'd put Yildiz up top and Weah on the left and go with that. But yeah, everything else, the exact same.
It's kind of all we have.
Yeah,
that really is all we can do.
We also don't have many choices.
There you go. And now for the kit giveaway. Okay? And we got to take a second and just thank you guys. The AJC Army guys are second to none. The support we get is tremendous. Always showing love on, I see it everywhere, social media posts, rate your best podcast, best channel, etc. You guys are always showing love, always trying to bring attention. We love it. The clips, the memes. Oh my God. Yesterday we had memes coming out of this game with my watch along. I love it. You guys know I'm easygoing. It's great. Okay. So big thanks. And we always like showing love. I got plenty more kits this year, but today it's the 3rd. It's got the Champions League badging. Wow. And our star boy Yildiz on the back. How you're going to win this. Okay. And yes, round of applause for the Army. Okay. Now, you're all going to get a fair shake. I did this one a while ago. I took a player off a Juve roster of old. And we're going to take this one back to 2004. Okay? So, I am going to text the AJC team chat with a player off that roster. Okay? And so they could see who I've picked. And the first one to name that player is going to be the winner of this kit. So here we go. Fire away, everybody. 2004-2005 roster. I just sent it in to these boys on the team chat. First one in the chat to name it gets it. Holy shit. First one. Zabina. No joke. No joke.
You must watch the show a lot because we bring him up quite a bit.
The bane of my existence during those years when Zabina was going in there. We had Calogero naming Zabina too. Blasi Tudor. Wow. Claudio T. Wow. Immediately nail it. Wow. Congratulations, my friend. Okay. I do have to say, though, we'll exchange details. There is a postal strike. They always do this right around the holidays. What a pain in the ass. Okay, so anyways, they're on strike. They know they're gonna get what they want right now because it's holiday season. So I don't know exactly when it's gonna get. Yeah, Canada Postal Service Day. But share the details. Reach out to us on our socials. We'll set this up. Claudio, congratulations. Everybody else, hey. Don't worry, like I said, there's plenty more where that came from. Paulo, Lou, absolute pleasure, as always, okay? Big shout out and thank you to Lou for all the work he does on the news, for all our social feeds, okay? So everybody show love to Lou there. And you guys.
Thank you.
Like I said, just one last piece of the puzzle. Motta, come on, man. Come on. Just find it. That last piece. Will we find it against Villa? Who knows? Let's wait.
Hey, Berto, one last thing. There's money coming to Juve, depending on how they do in Champions League, depending on where they end up with the Super Cup against Milan. So there's potentially 20 to 25 million coming in around the January time. I don't know if you get it all then, but let's start looking at January a little bit from the perspective of some of the money that's on the table, because we got to finish high in the Scudetto table so that we can get back to the Champions League. That money is real.
Yep. And Club World Cup will present 18 or 19 million just for participating. A far cry from the 50 we were hearing last season, but still, we'll take it.
Never rely on FIFA, can we?
Oh, he's a bunch of snakes. But listen.
And we need a sponsor. We still need a sponsor, right?
The big story. Get Del Piero in that damn office tomorrow, okay? Let's go. Let's go. Get Del Piero in there. I'm going to start the campaign on all our socials right now. We need Alex in there. This guy may pull the biggest move of anybody since Agnelli stepped in, okay, in 2011. This could be the next big move. I like it. You guys, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. As always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juventus. Ciao tutti.